Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching Behind the Brand. I want to give a special shout out to my friends at Pixability for making this episode possible. And don't forget to subscribe. It actually makes a huge difference to convince the people that don't believe you can watch awesome content like this for free on YouTube. Hope you enjoy the next episode. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name's John West. I'm the founder and CEO of Whistle Sports, and you're watching Behind the Brand.
Hi, I'm Brian Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with John West, founder and CEO of Whistle Sports. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
John, I ask my guests a lot, how'd you get this job?
How'd I get the job?
Yeah.
I started the company.
Yeah, what were you doing before that and what led you here?
Yeah, so I've started and grown and sold 2 companies over the last 20 years. Sold my last one to a public company, management integration, was fried. And so I put the computer in the drawer and the phone in the drawer and went home and was Mr. Mom. I have, at the time, 2 young kids, now 3. And I saw the sports media world now 6 years ago through their eyes. And really that's the genesis of the idea for Whistle Sports was young millennials are an active, growing part of the population. They're very different, as you can see here today. But when it comes to sports, the largest genre in media, they still really only have, before we started Whistle Sports, what was designed for their parents and grandparents.
You're talking about like ESPN or?
Yeah. Traditional sports media, broadcast only, one-to-many. We tell you how to think about sports, long games.
X's and O's on the screen?
Yeah.
Talk to us about some of the channels that are wrapped up under the Whistle Sports.
Yeah, so we're basically building a community of awesome sports creators, and there's really 2 types. There are creators, a lot of whom are here today, like Dude Perfect and Brodie Smith, and they create awesome trick shot or behind-the-scenes sports content. And then we're blending that with pro sports. So we have partnerships with the NFL, Major League Baseball, major pro leagues and teams, and we're trying to find that intersection that still aligns with the authenticity of sports, but is fast-paced, socially driven, mobilely viewed sports media.
So that sounds very strategic, and that's awesome. We love that. How do you go about recruiting or finding some of these partners? Is that also as strategic?
Yeah, part of it is and part of it's not. I mean, I think we have our list of what we look for. We like people who create great content, who've created in a different way, in an authentic way. And so we can look for that across YouTube, but increasingly the 7 other social platforms that we're on, like Facebook and Vine, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, etc. And then it also happens randomly. We'll get a video from someone who is small relative to building an audience and that progression, but there's something magical about what they're doing, and we bring them into the community as well.
So what's your staff like? I mean, you guys have a whole army of people?
Yeah, we have 4 offices right now, headquartered in New York. We have 65 people full-time, and we have 300 creator partners right now in our community that are creating content every day.
So are 64 of those guys and gals just have ear to the ground, listening on social, Snapchat, Vine, YouTube, just trolling the waters looking for great content?
Yeah, most of the folks on our team are 25 or younger, and there's only a few with the gray hair. So they're always on the outlook. We have a focused team in New York of 4 people that do nothing but try and reach out and find new partners. But to some extent, everyone is sort of keeping the ear to the ground and finding the next right thing. We think that sports is the most nascent genre across everything you see here today, from fashion, entertainment to music. Sports started later, and partly because of the nuances of rights agreements and professional leagues and the traditional sports media. So we think there's a lot of growth coming, and we're already growing quite a bit.
So would you categorize yourself as a traditional MCN?
No. We were an MCN last year. We focused on YouTube. We saw in the middle of last year that the growth of our creators, when we would put a video on Facebook, on Instagram, as the other social platforms adopted short-form video as a primary medium, we quickly reached out and became really a social sports network for millennials across social media platforms.
Talk to us about the model. So maybe there's an aspiring creator out there who's watching this like, man, I'd love to be part of Whistle Sports. Yeah. How do they make money? I mean,
so part of what we do and the 65 people is we have about a 12-person team that is both external sales, we cover every major region in the US and now Europe, and a sales support team. And their job is to go out to large brands who many already invest quite a bit in sports properties and traditional sports media, and educate them about the value of our creator base. And so we drive revenues for them with branded content, with social activations. We help them figure out other ways to merchandise as other social media platforms begin to monetize. We're taking the proven model in how do you monetize sports media in a traditional sense and applying it and changing it where needed to sports media for millennials on social platforms.
So you're saying to the creator, come and produce awesome content. We're going to take care of you. We're going to nurture what you're doing, but also help you monetize. We're going to connect you with big brands, with deals, events, merch, whatever it is, and help them blow it up.
Yeah, and we're going to help you figure out how to not only be successful on YouTube, but be successful on Facebook, where we right now have twice as many views on Facebook as we do on YouTube across our creators. It's a growing, so there's other options. So we have the expertise to try and help them figure out how to get on that platform, how to create authentic content, what are the aspects that are a formula, and then obviously they have to bring the creative talent and magic to it, and you combine those and it really works. And also in our situation, we have league partnerships. So, doing collaboration videos at a famous facility with a team, with a pro athlete, tends to add to the coolness of a sports video depending on the specific sport. So we bring that to the table too.
Yeah, and it elevates the production value.
It does, and it adds an authenticity, again, depending on the sport that doesn't exist too much yet on platforms like YouTube.
So are you guys buying any media? Are you boosting posts? Are you sponsoring Instagrams?
We don't do it for the sake of getting numbers. What we do for brands is we organize what we call social influencer campaigns. So across our 300 creators and growing, if we find we did a great campaign for Buick around March Madness. They are a big sponsor for the March Madness tournament. We found 12 of our partners in the basketball vertical within Whistle Sports that create some really cool dunk shot videos, and we basically facilitated a campaign where they created the videos, and then it was a bracket challenge for the community to vote on what was the best one and the best roast to the top.
So you're really acting like an agency partner in that sense.
There's a part of us that acts like an agency partner that's a blend of a sports agency and a talent agency to some extent. What a sports creator grows up into is different than a fashion creator or maybe a pure entertainment creator. So we're learning that, frankly.
Are you incubating or thinking about cultivating any original content?
Yeah, we do. We have about a 14-person original content team. And original we define not as our idea, our talent, but an idea that either we're working with a brand for, or we have, or our creators have, that may span multiple creators. We sort of facilitate it all. A lot of our original content has our creators in the content. It just wasn't ideas that they came up with that they executed. But yeah, it's as we grow Whistle Sports branding, it becomes, in addition and with our community, it becomes an important wrapper for folks to understand just what Whistle Sports is beyond 300 creator partners.
How much interest is there from Whistle Sports and or your creators to transition from non-traditional to traditional? So leap back maybe into TV or do a feature film or something like that? Surprisingly
a lot. I mean, I believe we're a data-driven company, and we have a ton of data across 8 social media platforms. Not only the reach, we're now almost at 100 million aggregate social reach globally, about half inside the U.S., half outside. If you aggregate the fans, followers, and likes across all of our 8 platforms. But the engagement is so significant on those platforms, which is really what's driving a lot of brand interest and capital and revenue for us right now. But the model of the TV show or the film still resonates in the marketplace. It'll be interesting to see how that transforms over the next few years.
Why do you think that is? Just because it has such a social status attached to it, or?
I think it's 2 things. I think first there's a lot of dollars still there. So when one of those deals is done, it drives significant revenue for the creator, and I totally understand that. I think secondly, millennials is an overused word. We have 13 to 34-year-olds in general, about 90% of our audience. But there's 3 really distinct sections: 13 to 17, 18 to 24, and 25 to 34. I think if you're on the younger end of those, TV shows are becoming less relevant. I think on the upper sort of 25 to 34, they still grew up in the world where TV shows kind of were where they learned media. I think it's very different on the younger end of that.
Yeah, a lot of people have cut the cord. They don't even know. I haven't even seen popular movies. I was talking to a guy, talking about some movie that just came out. He's like, never heard of it.
Yeah.
It's like,
we have cord cutters on the upper end of our demographic. On the lower end of our demographic, they don't have a TV, and don't know what a quarter is or why that would exist, because it's all mobile views.
Yeah. Now take your founder and CEO hat off for a second. Let's get personal for a minute. You guys are a startup. Well, maybe you're a little farther down the runway, but give us some advice. You know, people watch the show, they're entrepreneurs, they have startups, they're at different stages of their deal. Give us some of your best advice. Look into the camera, maybe, get a little heart to heart.
You know, we've raised $40 million in 2 rounds, so we consider ourselves an emerging company beyond the startup phase, but have been through that 3 times now. You know, the best advice I ever heard on starting a company is commit to success, not necessarily your exact idea when you started, but winning and succeeding at growing a company. So, you know, we started out, our first business plan was building a linear cable network for youth around sports. Because when we, 6.5 years ago, had the initial idea, this didn't barely exist. So we've been flexible on the execution along the way and made some pretty significant pivots. But I think our team is really committed to winning, to building a great company and creating and facilitating content for millennials that doesn't exist today, and it's super cool.
So how do you define success?
You know, as a founder and as in a company that's raised capital from external investors, it's down the road having a great return for the investors who put the money in, number one. For our team, all of whom are equity holders, it's obviously having, whether it's a successful IPO or a liquidity event, having some financial success. But I think what drives us more is seeing what we see today, seeing we have a few of our creator partners that are here today, seeing them walk around, seeing the audiences relate to them, knowing that we had a part in that from some of the marketing and promotion we've done, and you know, seeing the initial idea go through phases where revenue grows and audience grows and engagement grows, and just continuing to hit those phases. What we ask ourselves is, what's the next phase? And we're in the process of doing that right now. So,
what's the hardest thing you've ever done, John?
Raise kids.
What's so hard about it?
Pressure to make sure you're doing a good job and constantly wondering if you're doing everything you can as a dad or as a mom. I think that's certainly the hardest thing I've ever done, and continue to do. My kids are still fairly young.
Well, let's talk about that. For those who are trying to figure out this balance, work-life balance, how do you do it?
That's the hardest thing I do, because when I'm not working on Whistle Sports and growing the company and working with our team, I feel guilty for not doing more, even though I work crazy hours. And when I'm not with my family, I feel guilty for not being with my family. So I haven't figured out the answer. I think it's certainly what I've gotten better at is when I am with the kids, I perhaps when they were younger used to multitask a bit more, and now I shut off work and just I'm there and I'm really there. So it might be I'm really there on the weekend, but when I'm there, Dad's really there, so I think I've done a better job at that. But it's the biggest, personally for me, it's been the biggest challenge of this company versus my first 2 when I didn't have kids, or my second one had a very young kid.
Whether that's through the eyes of the creator or the founder and CEO, how long do you give this great idea that you're passionate about before it's just not working, before you cut bait, before you change direction?
Yeah, boy, I don't have the answer to that for sure. I think for me it goes back to when I put my own capital in to seed fund it, when we raised money from individual investors, some of our friends, and then from institutional investors, I was committed to making sure that this works. They don't have a return yet, but I think it was a commitment to build a company successfully more than a commitment to an idea, although the idea is pretty broad that we have, and there are a lot of ways we could execute it. So maybe the takeaway, thinking out loud, is that if you're more flexible on the success, on what your idea is, and for us, our idea was that millennials, and certainly young millennials, are underserved by existing broadcast media, because I watch my kids not want to watch the Red Sox baseball game with me after 1 minute, get up and walk away bored. So the idea is so broadly defined for us initially that it's probably easier. I'm not saying that there's not some point where you stop beating your head against the wall. I just think maybe flexibility in what your idea is. My last 2 companies, what we ended up building and selling ultimately was different from the execution of it was a little different from what we started with, and different client base in one example, different type of product in one example. Data point of one.
We've been spending a few minutes with John West, founder and CEO of Whistle Sports. John, thanks for being on the show.